Hi there, my name's Aston Banks. I'm a first year student at Te Whare o Te Upoko o Te Ika Maui, otherwise known, for now at least, as Victoria University of Wellington. I'm here today to talk to you about success in education, based on what I've learned from a lecture by Dr. Bronwyn Wood. This lecture revolved around what is called a sociological approach, a way of looking at the inequalities in our educational system that concentrate on the effects that society is having on a person's time in the system. In this presentation, we will be looking at some of these inequalities, how they affect education, how they relate to us as students, and a little bit of theory on the topic as well. So, success in education. What does this mean?
More like, when to begin?
Thanks for that, Jeeves. Obviously, it's a big question. There are all sorts of success, but the kind that we'll be focusing on is that which leaves you with the greatest amount of opportunities possible. It seems that the general idea has been that your success in school determines your place in the workforce, or even the world. But the education system has always been in a state of learning itself. It is constantly developing, making mistakes, acknowledging them and attempting to fix them. With the progression from school certificate to NCEA, the system had learned and acknowledged that not everyone learns in the same way, and has then taken a step to correct this by diversifying the ways in which students' performances are tested. With luck and with some help from those willing to make some noise, our education system will continue to grow into one with a more even playing field for all who are in it. But of course this is only looking at one part of the picture. Educational policies and curriculum play a big part, but Diane Ray talks about two other groups that contribute to inequalities in schooling. One of them is what the actual school has to offer. The education and its facilities have an impact on how well a student will learn and thereby succeed. Naturally, up-to-date books and enthusiastic caring teachers will foster a student's learning. These are what Ray calls internal factors, which create their own set of inequalities from school to school. External factors refer to an individual's student's background, your backgrounds, where you come from, your families and where they are from, even down to your personal beliefs of who you are and what you believe you are capable to achieve. Glamorgan 2007, cited in Ray 2010, cited in Dr. Bronwyn Wood's Personal Comms 2018, argue that it's more external factors that contribute to inequalities, and as long as there are greater social inequalities in the world, they will continue to contaminate our educational system. This idea is also supported by Boston 2013, in that there is certainly correlation between success in schooling and these external factors. An example that drove this concept home for me was the effect that poverty has on schooling success. You can imagine a student whose basic needs are not being met, things like food and nourishment, health and safety. It's going to be significantly harder for them to excel in a classroom than one who has no worry of those basic things being satisfied. So it seems evident that the better the environment provided, the easier it will be for an individual to succeed. This leads me to believe that the more support programs like Food for Kids, the more the playing field will be levelled, and the student results will reflect this. So, you may still be wondering, why succeed in education? Isn't it an obsolete concept to believe that success in school will determine success in later life? My uncle dropped out of school at 15 and now he owns 3 mechanics. This is partially true. There are always exceptions to the rule. What I see as the bottom line is that in general, we all want the means to provide for ourselves and our families in the most comfortable way possible. The trouble is, while we are at the ages of compulsory schooling, that's you guys sitting there in class, having the teacher make you watch this video I made. Oh, Matt! Kei te pēhe koe! During the ages of compulsory schooling, seldom do we know what we want to do with our lives. What a successful education does for us is gives us a wider variety of options for when we do decide, and the wider the variety we have, the more chance we get for social mobility. You may have heard of social class. No, that's not the free period you get to hang out in the common room and chat to all your friends. Matt, stop trying to chat up Anahira! This refers to a sort of metaphorical ladder. There's no official measurement for social class, but it's generally indicated by job, title, salary, or maybe even the prestigiousness of what you have done. The term social mobility means the transitioning from one social class to another. So, if your grandfather was on the distribution lines in a factory, and now your uncle is a successful business owner, that is an example of social mobility. Cool! The alternative to social mobility is called social reproduction, a far less impressive concept, wherein there is no movement. It means if you were born into a poor family, you'll grow up to be poor too, while those born into wealthy families will always be wealthy. Just hearing myself say it out loud makes me feel I don't need to tell you... Quiet, honey! Makes me feel like I don't need to tell you why we don't want this to be the case.
Well, maybe some of us do.
Well, here's why anyways. If we want to see Aotearoa and all those who inhabit it thrive, we must provide a fair playing field and equal opportunity for all. No one should have to have their fate sealed, so to speak, simply because of the environment they were born into.
And now for a little bit of theory.
Lastly, I think it's important to tell you about Bourdieu's 4 forms of capital: human, economic, social and cultural. There are 4 different elements that help individuals to succeed, and because we are all part of society, developing ourselves, we all have aspects of these capitals to varying degrees.
First,
Economic capital basically comes down to money. Unfortunate, I know, but I guess it's, as they say, the nature of the beast. As mentioned earlier, the more money one has behind them, the more availability of resources they have.
second.
Human capital relates to skills an individual has to offer, things they have learned. This tends to develop more as time goes on, as you gain experience, whether through specific training or more practical-based experience.
First, second. Third!
Social capital is grown through the relationships we have. It grows as our social base grows. The more positive relationships we foster, the more people we have who may be willing to help us out. For example, if you had a friend at school who ended up owning a business, he or she might find an opportunity within their business for you to work just because you were friends. So I said to Meredith, take the role, you never know when you're going to get your next one. Fourth! Cultural capital is to do with the breadth of the horizons of your mind. The more you've seen, the more you understand, and the greater your dreams can be. Travelling is a great example of this. If you can find the opportunity to travel and get a glimpse, you can get a glimpse of a totally different way of living, and you can take that knowledge and wisdom with you wherever you go. So get out there and see the world, whether it's the other side of the city or the other side of the earth. The more developed these capitals are, the more advantage one is given. This relates back to the inequalities we talked about earlier and why those from higher socio-economic backgrounds tend to find it easier to succeed in education. But it's also encouraging that we can all develop our own personal capital and create the best lives for ourselves and our families. The sociological approach seems to have what could be seen as a somewhat cynical view that schools are not actually helping to generate upward social movement, but rather promoting social reproduction. But we're not going to conclude on a down note. Now that we've acknowledged some issues, how may they be resolved? Now remember, I'm only a first year student myself. I don't have all the answers, but I'll give it a shot. Firstly, I believe we have to continue support programs that cover our students' basic needs and keep working on creating a fair environment for all who partake in our schooling. Excuse me. A better distribution of funding is needed, focusing less on a system which supports those that are already doing well and neglects those who are struggling. As stated by Snook and O'Neill, 2014, this can be helped by educational policy that ensures that, and I quote, schools must be resourced on a needs base. There must be policies for assigning good teachers to those students who need them who most need them. And there must be an adequate health and pastoral care in or attached to the school. But most importantly, you in the education system need to know that you can be successful in your education. You are the future and are capable of making the changes in this world that we dream of. We must all play our part and be the very best we can be and say, no, we will not be slaves to the system. This is our system and it will work for us. We will make tomorrow a better day where all those in Aotearoa can come to school excited for all the possibility that the future holds for them.